Who were the leading influences in your life's journey? What event particularly impacted you for good or bad? Have you ever thought about how your life affects those who interact with you as you meander through life?
Have to expose them to all of these potential skill developing activities, be it football, be it, poetry, be it music or, gardening or whatever it might be. Expose them, because you just never know where that talent lies.
It's like God, leaning over in heaven and throwing confetti down upon me to be like, you did the thing that I told you to do.
And you realize as you process stuff, sometimes you need to take off some of those stuff from the vacuum, place it on the table and say, Craig, what do you think about this?
A lot of my subordinates who worked directly to me were retired superintendents and chief inspectors who would never have had a black supervisor, never mind a female.
But what that did is that it helped me to realize, just keep pushing.
So, I'm very much against, let's teach the things at school. That's a family matter. Can we keep that in the family? And let's teach, and that's just giving you my personal opinion.
Yeah, you talk about the feedback sandwich, where if you have to give someone some feedback that's not so positive, you find some positive, you put the little bit in the middle that they need to work on, and you end on a positive. And that's important. You must never you must leave people better than you found them.
Believe it or not, every encounter we have with a young mind leaves an impression that will shape the person they will become.
Issue is that the education system, sadly, is still based on the kind of Socratic, we're going to produce people that work in a factory, and the select few that will be the kind of leaders or the business or it's still dated.
Political correctness, the society we live in, has lots of common points with the communism.
Relationships are amazing currencies. You want to learn how to treat people well. You want to know how to be present with yourself as you gain the tools along the way. I was this young student at UA who was hanging out with the Chilean embassy friends speaking Spanish all day, and I was studying Japanese. So by that point, I was speaking 3 different languages already. When I came to New York, I was already familiar with knowing how to fully be myself, but also embracing different cultures.
Me winning the Dove in particular for this project that just has so much attached to it.
Hey everyone, I'm Craig, and this is Impact, where I speak with some amazing people and have some impactful conversations. Here, they share their stories of how they were impacted and leaving nuggets and goodness for us to learn from. They will also share how they are using the lessons learned to motivate and inspire and make an impact today. Please do like, share, and comment, and let us know what you think about this program. Today, our special guest is someone who has worked with some of today's top vocal talents, including Ariana Grande, Jessie J, and Beverley Knight. He's also a TV presenter, presenting BBC's BAFTA-nominated Our Dementia Choir, Songs of Praise, and ITV award-winning The Masked Singer. He is also the founder of Singology Choir, a London-based community choir. They performed Old Little Town of Bethlehem for the Queen's New Year's message in December. He teaches at many recognized educational institutions around the world, including ACM, where he founded the multi-award-winning ACM Gospel Choir in 2006. Anyone who is fortunate to spend some time with him is left feeling uplifted and invigorated. Perhaps he is best known for his arrangement of Stand By Me for the royal wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in 2018. Please help me welcome none other than Mark DeLisser. Thank you for joining us today, Mark, on Impact.
Thanks for having me, Craig. Really good to be part of this. Really good.
I just want to say, well done to all the work that you have been doing. I've been following you with your choirs, and especially during the pandemic, and especially with your dementia choir, because that, is very close to me with my dad passing from that. So thanks for all the work you're doing.
No problem. It's a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
So, Mark, we're talking about impact, and it's about, life, who have impacted you, but you're doing so many great things. I want to start from you as a child, because we see what was Mark like as a child?
Oh man, what was I like as a child? Curious, I think, always curious, and always seeking to try new things, do different things, and and I was always trying to be different, and that was a weird thing for me, because I like trying new things, I do, but I do get a little bit, or I did, I guess, as a youngster, just get a little bit scared about trying new things. But as soon as I'm into it, then and it excites me, then I'm in it, and I'm in it for life. And I think the same was how I got into singing and choirs, really, just doing things differently, trying to shake up the norm. I saw a lot of choir leaders when I was growing up, and I was always like, well, what if they did it like this? Or what if they tried it like this? Or what if, we did it a different way? So that was very much me as a kid, really, just try new things, see where things go, and just take some risks, really. So that was me. I didn't take many, because, West Indian family and all of that, it's not easy to kind of go too far, but I would always be looking to do something different.
So I'm interested in what was the thing that kind of held you back. What were you a bit scared of trying?
I guess I think sometimes as a young West Indian child, or child of a West Indian parents, you're kind of bound a little by the boundaries that they give you, and church and their strong disciplinarian outlook, really, I guess, just stopped you from kind of doing things that you thought would be all right, and I think that was always a thing that kind of held me back in a way, and rightly so. I think there were lots of things that our parents gave us that were absolutely right, but as you get older, you realize that actually we could have been a little bit more adventurous, and at the same time still safe and still within the boundaries and the realms of morality and all the rest of that. So those are the kind of things that helped me back a little. But again, not totally negatively. I think there were definitely positives in it.
So I guess you were very energetic as a young child.
Yeah, yes, I was. One of the first things that I remember doing, being at Brixton Church as a youngster, is leading the youth choir, and I was in my teens at that point, and the church asked me to lead the youth choir, and I was like, let's go and do it. And I remember the first time conducting, because again, watching other conductors, I was always in awe of all the conductors that I saw. My dad introduced me to choirs when I was about 7 years old, when he was in a male voice choir that he's still in today. And I remember looking at the choir leader and thinking, wow, he's great. He's in control of all these voices, and he's steering them in a way, and telling them where to go and how to sing the songs. And I was really inspired by that. And then when I started to lead the church choir, there was just some energy that came out of me in that first time that we sang in church and went into the congregation. There was just an energy, and I just thought, this is what is needed. And so there was lots of energy, man. I in my head I thought it was too much, but people were like, that's a really interesting style of conducting. And ever since then, that's been my style. If I give the energy, then the singers that are in front of me are going to give that energy back.
So you talk about church. What about school? When you were at school, how did you manage that energy, and how did teachers manage you with that energy?
Well, again, school was interesting, because again, there's the boundaries that they all place up for you. So I kind of worked within those boundaries, but where I was able to really kind of allow that energy to come out was through music. I remember being, studying music at GCSE, and the teacher just giving me and two of my other friends the keys to the music block, you know, because I guess the teacher recognized that we had a flair for it, and it was something that was interesting and exciting, and also we were developing that skill. And so, you know, we had keys at 14 years old, you know, to the whole entire music block. And it's like, you know, and that's kind of unheard of back then, especially where I went to school. It was unheard of. But they, so the teachers were kind of, they enabled us, and they enabled me to kind of allow, you know, that to use that energy in order to develop and create new music, you know. So yeah, that was one of the ways.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. You talk about the teachers seeing that in you and allowing you, giving you that trust, because, you know, with schools today, there are so many restrictions in place, and children who have not the ability so much of maths and English, but that practical element, they're not given that opportunity. How do you think we can support that as teachers, as educators?
Well, I think we have to recognize where a child has a skill or even just an interest, and I honestly believe that if we expose them to so much more, we expose them to all of those areas. They might even just be one little thing that there's a flash of interest for. Expose them to it. Give them an opportunity. Say, you know, take it, use it, and if it flourishes, brilliant. If it doesn't, then it wasn't for them. You know, so I think we just need to be a lot more open and stop is a really definite and final word, and I won't use that. I'll say restrict the amount of restrictions we put on the children, right? So we should be able to say, go and try that, go and see how that is. You know, my daughter came to me when she was in primary school and said, you know, Dad, I want to try football, you know, because I want to be a footballer. And the West Indian, should I call it West Indian? I don't know, but the parent in me, I guess, I'm a child of West Indians, right? So the parent in me was like, what? You want to be a what? That wasn't said. That was what went on in my head. Yeah. The dialogue that went on in my head was, I can't stop her. I shouldn't stop her. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I know my daughter. And I know she's not going out in the rain to kick a ball. If it's sunny, then she's going to. So I know she's not going to be as dedicated to get to the, you know, to be successful as a footballer. And so I had that dialogue in my head, and I thought, no, I'm going to go with the sense of allow her to do it. And so I said, okay, cool, great, go for it. And she started football sessions at school, and you know, she was doing pretty well. She was getting better. She'd come home and we'd kick a ball in the garden, and it was like, oh, okay, this is really cool. And you know, she's now still quite a good footballer, but she's gone off the idea, because it's just it is almost like a little bit too much. It's too much the hard work for her. She's recognized that actually it's not really what she wants to do, but we as parents and as teachers must give them the opportunity to try it. And if you see that there is a skill and there is the desire, and also that willingness to actually do it regardless, against the odds, go and do it, then you know that that's something that they're gonna flourish at. You know, so I think it's important that we resist the temptation to stop our children from doing the things that, you know, maybe we wouldn't want them to do. We got to let them do it.
It's interesting. Where did that idea come from? What you know, that initial thought in your head? What is it that, you know, that you think that you go for that first? Was it because she was a female? If it was a boy, you would probably think differently. Or is that, you know, again?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I do know. Of course I do. And the I know is simply that my parents, you know, and like I've said it so many times, my West Indian parents, with all the troubles and strife that they encountered when they came to this country, they were very much like, okay, you need to go and get a job. You need to learn, get your education, and go and get a job. And the job should be either one of the what I call the big five: accountancy, solicitor, doctor, you know, engineer, you know, all of the big five jobs that they knew would be sustainable, right? Or a career you'd be able to, you know, sustain your life. And I think there's still that is programmed in me from all of the years of my parents telling me the same thing. And so I think there was that in me. It's just like, do I want my daughter to become a footballer? At the time, not really. Instantly, not really. But that was the pre-programmed upbringing that I was given. So therefore the dialogue, like I said in my head, was like, no, you can't. Yes, you can. No, you can't. Yes, you can. No, you can't. Okay, let's try it. You know, and see where it goes. And again, that's shaped as a parent, and that's absolutely shaped my belief for all of my children, that they should absolutely try absolutely everything that they can put their hands to, that they think is going to be something that they enjoy. You know, I bought some drums last Christmas for my youngest, primarily because he showed a bit of flair on the drum. And so I was like, okay, cool. So we bought him a drum kit. And interestingly, his older brother is far stronger, but didn't show the flair. Right? Actually, has never sat on a drum kit before. But has now surpassed his younger brother, because there is something in him that he picks up the reading of the music easier, and his rhythm rhythm's not necessarily better, but he just is able to read the music and play the drums, you know, whereas my youngest can play and has a really good rhythm and really good feel, but struggles to read the music. And that's really interesting for me, because if I hadn't brought the drums into the house, I would never know that my eldest boy had such a skill for it. You see? And so
that hidden talent,
but we would never know this unless if we hadn't exposed him to the drums, we would never know. So this is my point, that we have to expose them to all of these potential skill developing activities, you know, be it football, be it, you know, poetry, be it music, or, you know, gardening, or whatever it might be. Expose them, because you just never know where that talent lies, you know?
I mean, you mentioned so many times your parents in this, and, you know, I want to zone in on the impact they had on you as a child, and how that, you know, you have mentioned a bit about how that shaped your parenting skill. But who was the most impactful, your dad or your mom?
I'd say both in equal measure. My mum was very much the vocal, and would say, you must read your book, and you must do your best, and, you know, you must do this, and you must, you know, there was always a harder talk that came from mum than there was from dad. And the hard talk was very good in times, and actually also quite destructive at times as well. Because you know, there's some certain things that you just weren't capable of not capable, but you just didn't have the necessary skill. And one of the things that I have been saying for a number of years now, is growing up in this country to West Indian parents was quite difficult, primarily because they had to work. You know, they had to bring money home, you know, in order for us to continue to live and be comfortable. And so therefore they didn't really have the time to spend with us on the homework, the school, you know. But I can't blame them for that, because they were doing what they could in order for us to have a roof over our heads, you know. So, and that was really difficult. And so therefore the pressure to succeed wasn't then backed up with any level of support. Again, not their fault, but that was always a tricky thing for me. And when I look back, I realized that there were so many things that were said, certain things that absolutely settled with me and have absolutely changed my life. But there are also things that were said that there was so much pressure, but like I said, there was no real support. Now, one of the things that my mum said to me that I even said yesterday, and I think I probably say it maybe 4 or 5 times a month. In fact, let me talk about my dad first, actually. My dad is a quiet man, or is a very quiet man. And so when he says something, it was always quite profound. I mean, he said something to me many years ago, and he said, in this life, you're going to come up against doors. And he said, you must always push on that door, right? And at the time, I was just like, oh, okay. What's that even mean? You know, mid-teens or whatever. He said, you should always push on the door and try and open it and see what's on the other side. And it only started to resonate with me when I got into my 20s, where those doors are those opportunities, you know, those things, those times where you come to an opportunity and you're like, do I say yes to this? Is this a good opportunity? Should I do this? Is this going to be good for me? Is it going to be good for my career? And he said, push on every door. And I start, as soon as I started to just walk through doors of opportunities that I thought were never going to be something that I could do or that I'd be good at, then things started to change. And you're like, oh, okay, I see what you mean now. So when somebody calls me to say, can you do this? I have no previous knowledge of, and I don't even know whether or not I can achieve what they're asking me to do, pushing on the door is going, yeah, I can, yeah.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And then going into the room and working out what you need to do and then learning. And that is how you grow, you know? And I'm going to couple that with something that my mum said, which was also a really, really brilliant phrase. And she said, in this life, Mark, sometimes you have to kiss ass before you kick it.
My dad said that to me too. That's something that I've always said.
Always. And I at the time, again, you were a youngster, you're just like, what does that even mean? But as you get older, you realize that sometimes you just have to go into a situation and do the things that you're being asked to do.
Yeah.
Support, okay, grow somebody, help somebody, work for somebody before you will start working for yourself, you know, and building for yourself. And so it's really important to do that. And so, yeah, they were very, very influential in many ways. And I wouldn't change my upbringing, you know, for anything really, because they taught me so much. Like I said, you know, it was difficult growing up, for many reasons. But the gold was definitely there. There were so many gems and so much gold that they gave us as kids, you know, growing up, that have shaped us into who we are today.
Yeah, that's you know, interesting that, you know, I guess from our West Indian background, we have those parents who instill those values in us and make us who we are today. In terms of your music, I guess your dad was the one who kind of steered you into that. He was the one that impacted you most.
Yeah, unknowingly. He didn't even know. I mean, I don't even know if I mentioned it to him the other day because I've been doing a load of interviews over the past 2 years, and it wasn't until I started to really think about it, he was the greatest influence in music. And I say that because without knowing it, my one Friday night, he would go to choir rehearsal, male voice choir rehearsal every Friday night. And in going to the rehearsal, my mum said to him one evening, oh, you know, there were 4 children, right? And I think she said something like, just, you know, can you not take one of them with you, you know? And I, obviously, being the youngest, was, you know, all right, cool, I'll go. And you know, I remember quite vividly just not wanting to go. I wanted to stay at home and, you know, play or, you know, run about the house.
Yeah.
My dad was like, no, you're coming. So, and I jumped in the car and I thought, man, this is going to be so boring and so dry. And, you know, honestly, it was boring and it was dry, but I was transfixed to the conductor. And I was transfixed to his ability to make the music come alive, you know, to teach these men. I mean, my dad, you know, as a 7-year-old, my dad's old, right? He's an old man, and all of his friends are old men. I mean, I'm that age now and older. I don't know how my kids see me, but, you know, and it was, you know, 20 or 30 old men on stage. And he was getting these sounds out of them and changing their sound and saying, no, sing this. And no, give me like saying, oh, more volume. And in that moment, which was dry and boring for me, was the catalyst for where I am right now, you know, because from there, I learned so much just watching. And I don't remember going there many, many times, you know, 3 or 4 times, maybe it could be 10, a handful. But I learned so much as a youngster. So my dad was, without knowing it, massively influenced me. And also he was singing every single week. He was going every single week. You know, that was his thing. And, you know, even up until today, I mean, before the pandemic, he was every single week. He's in his 80s now, you know?
It's interesting that, you know, and when I speak to lots of people and I've interviewed them, they always talk about the unknowingly how people are impacting them, and it makes you conscious of what you do and realizing that so many people can be looking onto you without you even realizing that you're having that great impact.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Now the playing of the music. So you were, looking at all the music. How did you get into playing the piano, the keyboard, instruments?
Well, my mum and dad put a piano in the house. There was a piano in the house ever since I was born, and that was a West Indian thing that everybody did. You must have a piano in the house because everybody must play. And none of my brothers and sisters all learned, and I don't think any of them. Well, no, in fact, I know none of them still play. But I believe they still can at some level. And so that was just there, and it was something I would jump on every day and try and do as best I could. I mean, I still don't consider myself to be a piano player, really, but I use it in order to teach and to guide people, But yeah, so that was how that started, and then I took that into school and was playing in school for different things, and yeah, and it just kind of grew from there, really. And music was always around. It was always in the house. We were always listening to stuff. I was always stealing music from my brother or my sister because they obviously had money to buy the stuff and listening to music like that, So yeah, and then from there, church just was a real breeding ground for us as musicians, because we had to create music, and this is what we were doing. And this is a thing that people find quite fascinating. As in the Adventist church, when I was growing up in the 70s, 80s, there was no electronic music. There was no electronic instruments, right? Whereas friends of mine that were going to other churches, had bass guitars and drums and guitars and keyboards and stuff. And we didn't. We just had the piano and our voices.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that those are the two things that I can do within music. I can play piano to a degree, and I sing and I teach voices. And so the church was very much that was what gave me my musical ability, but it was albeit limited because that's all we had. I think if there were drums, I mean, I did start playing drums at primary school, but if there were drums and there were bass guitars and all that kind of stuff, then maybe I would have there might be some different skills that I may have, now. But I'm grateful, super grateful, for it just being what we had, because, all of my choral arrangements that I do now all come out of sitting in church, listening to voices around, singing the hymns. Because again, a lost art is going to church and hearing major harmonies, really beautiful harmonies coming out of the congregation, which just doesn't happen these days. No, I'm sure it's happening, but not enough. You go to normal everyday. No, I shouldn't say normal everyday, but you go to churches that are not, Pentecostal or charismatic, or you go to a normal Anglican church and there's no real harmony going on. People are just singing in unison. But in my church, and what gave me the ear for arranging was just sitting beside people who were singing in harmony. And I talk about this lady all the time, as being, again, she passed many years ago now, but I can remember really vividly her alto. She used to sit beside me. She'd sit at the end of the row, I'd sit here, and my mum would sit on the other side of me for the most part, for most weeks. And her ability to sing the alto line was unbelievable. At the time, it was unbelievable to me, because I was just like, wow, how are you just holding one note throughout the whole of this song and still being in harmony? And as a 7-8-year-old, I'm fascinated by harmony. And so from there, that was the breeding ground that gave me the ear, the desire, and the will to want to do what I do today. So really important.
I mean, I remember, early days just coming to this country, and remember hearing you on a praise team with your sisters, and that was really. I still have that. Some of those songs I still hear in my head. When I'm in church and I'm hearing them singing, like, I can only hear you singing those songs. So I remember those days. Now, you have done lots of work with celebrities all over. And have there been any celebrity or any musician that really impact you in, propelling you to where you are, who you have worked with?
Ooh, wow. There's lots of people that I've worked with over the years, and I'm just trying to think who has really impacted me. Honestly, it's probably non-celebrity. It's probably non-celebrity. It's probably people. It's people like who I grew up with around in Brixton Church. Honestly, the Clark brothers, Norman Clark, Alden Clark. Just their musicality and their ability really on the piano was just. It still blows my mind. I could stand there and watch them and sit and listen to them for hours and hours and hours. So they were really impactful. I mean, if I do think about celebrities, I worked recently with Lenny Henry, and his huge desire to sing is such an inspiration. I believe everybody can sing, right? I believe everybody's a singer. But society says that if you're not at this level, where it is, then you shouldn't bother do it. And I think that's really wrong. And I think that sets up a really limiting mindset in people. So I don't subscribe to that. But he's really inspirational because he wants to do it. And he loves doing it. And so he's been quite impactful in just reaffirming and restoring the faith in me that everybody can do it and should do it, because even at the level that he's at in his life and his career, he still wants deep down wants to be a singer, and I absolutely love that.
I mean, when I listen to you and I watch you, I almost, I just wish I could be in your presence all the time to learn to sing, because I don't consider myself a singer. My wife and my daughter sings, but I'm sure if I was around you, I would be able to put out a few tunes.
You could. And that's the thing. And that's, people always say to me, what do you do? And I said, my passion and my desire and my love is people and music.
Yeah.
And when you bring those two things together, and you can get the people making the music who don't believe that they can make the music, it's such a joy. I work on the, I met Lenny Henry on The Masked Singer. Last year, and I've worked every season on that. And it's such a brilliant show because there are singers that come on, and you get the singers to do what they do. Really, you shape it and you guide them, and you say, oh, this will be really good, and let's try this. And then you have a whole host of people who are not singers. And that, for me, those are the more exciting prospects for me, because you've got people who come in a room and they're just like, I've never done this before. I've never sung. I don't know singing. I don't know how to do it. And then all of a sudden they're on stage, in a massive costume, singing, and you're just like, see. And then they come up and they're just like, oh my God, when can we do this again? And I know that, and that's what brings me so much joy, because just knowing that that's going to happen in the end, but if only they could see it. They feel like they're going through pain learning, but the reward is always far greater. And it's not until they see that means me go, oh, okay, cool. And then they go, all right, it was good, and we really enjoyed it.
I've watched a lot of your shows, and I've seen that coming through a lot of the time, and it's just like, how can we have more of the Mark around this place? What have you have worked with children in need, you have worked with different Dementia or different choirs. What was the most impactful thing you have come across during that time?
Well, there's been so many. I mean, our Dementia choir was like life-changing in many ways, primarily because at the time when they asked me to get involved, I didn't really know much about dementia, and so I went through a period of learning about it really, and about all these people that live with this condition, which is horrifying in many ways. And so damaging for the person living with, and also their friends and family and carers and so on. So that was probably the most life-changing, because I had to work with people who are coming to the end of their life, and just giving them a time or a period of excitement. And excitement is maybe the wrong word, but no, I'm going to use excitement, because when we start doing the music, you see a light turn on in their faces. You see that level of enjoyment and that level oh my goodness, this is unbelievable, you start to see that come out in their bodies and in their faces. And so it is a joy to see that. And for that period of time, be it an hour or whatever, it's so inspiring to see that, because then, they say that music is the first thing that we get as human beings. And I really believe that. And they also say it's the last thing to leave us. And that is so true of those people living with dementia. So that was probably the most inspiring and most impactful experience of my life. It's easy to work with choirs generally. But when you have to deal with people who are living with a condition that is ultimately life limiting, then that's a whole complete different.
Yeah, that's so true. Now, Mark, we're almost coming to the end, and I just want to thank you for all that you have been doing on behalf of the Dementia Choir and those people, because I said that's really close to me. My dad passed last year from that, so every time I think about the work you have done, it's just amazing to see that. Now, Mark, as a person, who would you say Mark as a person? 3 words to describe you.
Calm most of the time. Considerate, and I'm going to put a trying to be Christ-like.
Yeah. Good. Now, many people who have, got fame and celebrity working with the royals and so forth, sometimes things go to their head. How do you keep grounded, and what is the thing that keep your feet? Because I've always known you as a humble person. When I speak to you, I don't feel like the Mark I see on television. It's just Mark I know from ever since. So how do you keep grounded?
20 years ago, 19 years ago, I decided to marry a woman called Tracy, who is the absolute love of my life. And also she has a very, very good way of just knocking me right back down when I start to get a little higher. And I was absolutely blessed. God absolutely blessed me with her. But no, truly, Tracy is the one. And I would say that, she's quite astute at just noticing when things are going in a direction that I don't need to go in. And she's quite good, pretty good, actually, brutal even. Bringing me back down to ground. So just having, and I always say that, having people around you that are able to say, listen, no, that's not right, that's what you're doing there is going too far. Do you know what I mean? If you have those people around you, then you'll be successful. So she's absolutely the closest person to me, and absolutely the person that keeps me grounded.
It's good to know that you have the helping hand, a helpmate to keep you grounded. Now, you have children. Would you say you've seen any of your traits in them?
Oh, so many bad ones as well. But yeah, they. What I'm noticing about my daughter, especially, she's definitely showing signs of being pretty competitive. There's also music that's coming up in her as well, and she is quite strong-willed. And quite determined. So there's lots going on there. And she also overthinks things, which I have tended to do in the past. So, but yeah, there's lots. And my boys, I think that they are starting to display some ability in music, singing, but as I said, playing drums. And so there's loads of little things. Those are all the good ones. I'm not going to give you any of the bad.
So how, in terms of the bad one, how do you, is it a frightening thing? So, oh my gosh, did I teach them that? And
and I know it's not. I know I haven't taught them that, or I've inadvertently taught them that without even knowing, because they see me, they observe me, I'm around them. So there's things that they definitely pick up. But one of the ways, and I don't know whether or not this is right. Someone will probably say, no, this is the wrong thing to do, Mark. But when I see something in them, and I might challenge them on it, I will also help them to understand that I'm like that as well.
Yeah.
I say to my boys all the time, that I can't remember what one of my boys did. I don't remember what it was, but I kind of told him off for it. And then I said, it's really difficult though, because I'm telling you off, but that's exactly what I used to do. And, it's just the realization in their minds that, oh, right. Okay. So you used to do this, but did you get told off for it? And I'm like, yeah, I got told off for it because, it's not the right thing to do, but I'm still like you. Do you know what I mean? I'm no better than you.
Yeah.
You know? Therefore, and I'm trying to help them to understand that none of us are perfect.
Yeah.
None of us are going to get things right all the time. You know what I mean? I mean, I very rarely get things right, but, I want them to understand that actually we are fallible and we will do things wrong. Me, their mom, their brother, their sisters, whatever it might be, we would all do things wrong. And so I think it's really important. So when I do see traits, I do highlight to them that I'm like that. And this is how it did work for me or didn't work for me. If it was positive, it's like, yeah, this is how it worked and this was good. Or this is not working and this won't work for you because it didn't work for me. Just to give you a real quick story, my daughter, and this would be me, absolutely. She auditioned for a part at school in a musical called Matilda, and she messaged me after the audition. I said, how did it go? She said, oh yeah, well, I think it went well. I sang my song. I said, oh, okay, cool. So the following week they put up all of the cast list, and she didn't get the part she went for. And she messaged me and she said, oh, Dad, I didn't get the part. I said, oh, okay, what part did you get? She goes, I got the chorus, which is just, you're singing, not just, but you're singing all of the song. And I said, how you feeling? She was like, yeah, no, I'm fine, in a message and stuff. And when I got home, we were having a chat about it, and she was like, yeah, no, I was a little disappointed. And then she just burst into tears. I knew that was going to happen because I knew how disappointed she would be. And that's me, When you go for something and it's just like, oh man, and you are all right on the outside. You're like, okay. Yeah. Inside you're going, oh man, that is so. And what I try to encourage her to do is always to be honest and open about how you feel. You don't have to hide it.
Yeah,
I would do that. I would be hurting inside, and on the front of it, I'm totally fine. Like, yeah, great, no man. But actually, I think that's quite damaging for us and our mental health. So I was just encouraging her that, it's all right to say, I'm really sad.
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed that I didn't get it, and I want to cry, and so have a cry, and then you move forward. And so those traits I'm trying to help them to get rid of.
Now, just coming to the end, Mark, and technology have taken over. You mentioned earlier on that when you were growing up playing, there was no electronic music; it was just voice and harmonies and the piano. How do you, with the impact of technology and the work you do, how is that making a difference?
Well,
enhance that too.
Yeah. So in throughout the pandemic, we were able to stay connected to all our choirs through Zoom. And whilst musically it doesn't really work, it enabled us to stay connected. And that's one of the things that I was really grateful for, that we had that technology, in order to be able to use it to stay connected. So there's loads of things that we have developed throughout that, or ways of working using technology, which I think has been brilliant. And even just in the creation of music, there's so many things that I could be on the road and I can be creating music, as opposed to being in one set place. You can do Zooms from wherever you are in the world. All of that technological advancement, which is unreal, absolutely came into its own over the past 18 months to 2 years, so yeah, loads of stuff, which is good.
And you have adapted to that quite well. I see, so many choirs all around the world, so yeah. Well done.
Brilliant.
Finally, Mark, I'm just going to give you, this is just a quick one. I want you to just, without thinking, I say a word and you tell me what comes to mind first.
Okay.
Teachers.
Mr. Owen.
Parents.
Mom and Dad.
Friends.
Oh, no. Go back. Give me parents again. No, that's not
parents.
Discipline.
Friends.
They're the best.
Family.
Wow. Good and bad.
Church.
Ooh. Let's come back to that one.
Education.
Totally, totally necessary and important.
Environment.
Let's look after it.
Food.
All day long.
Voice.
It's the thing that we must use all the time.
Mark.
Pray for me.
Yeah, we come back to church then.
Our church is a difficult one, isn't it, Craig? It's a difficult one. Listen, we could do a whole thing on church, man. We
probably have to do part 2 on church. Yeah.
We'll have to do part 2 on church, because there's so much. There's so much to say on church, you know. There's so much. There's part 2. Let's go for part 2.
Okay. Someone listening to us all throughout, and now, you know, what's the advice you would have in terms of the impact that they will make on their children and other children, or, you know, how do they use their influence for others? What would you say, that message?
So you expose your children to as much as you possibly can. Yeah. And also try and remember that your upbringing doesn't have to be their upbringing. Your exposure to things may have been limited. You don't have to limit theirs, and you shouldn't limit theirs. Give them a childhood, and give them influences that you never had, and that you may never even have dreamt of. Try and create more opportunities for your children, so that they can thrive in this world. All right. We grew in a certain way. Our children are going to be completely different, and allow them to be that.
Okay, I just want to thank you for joining us today and for sharing, you know, words of wisdom, your experience. And I'm sure someone out there will be impacted by what you have said and continue to impact people from all over. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. It's been a real pleasure. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Impact. I hope you were blessed. We look forward to having you next week, same time at 7 p.m. on Sunday, when we continue in this series. We have very special guests lined up for you as we start the month of February, which in the UK we celebrate as Black History Month. And we'll hear from some of our heroes of today as they share their stories. So join us. Until then, see you. Bye. Please do like, share, and comment, and let us know what you think about this program.